assisted the growth of the sector and has been committed to continued investment in infrastructure, enhancing Kerala's digital connectivity and networking, undertaking initiatives to upgrade the quality of skilled human resource from Kerala, and reaching out to investors from different parts of India and internationally to invest in the state. We have 3 sessions on information technology. Today, that is now, we have the session on software. On 27th January from 10 a.m., we have the session on hardware. And on 2nd February, we have the session on information technology as a whole. We would like to take this opportunity to welcome each one of you to the thematic session on software. I would like to welcome Professor T. Jayaraman sir, member Kerala State Planning Board, for the welcome address. Professor T. Jayaraman is Senior Fellow at M.S. Swaminathan Research Foundation. He previously served as a chairperson of a Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, School of Habitat Studies and School of Research Methodology, Tata Institute of Social Science, Mumbai. His areas of research interest are climate change related issues, including climate policy, energy issues, global mitigation, carbon budgets and vulnerability and adaptation, sustainability studies with special emphasis on equity, science and technology policy in advanced science and technology sectors, including nuclear policy. He is in charge of energy, information technology, scientific service and research, and climate change and disaster management in Kerala State Planning Board. Welcome, sir. The dais is all yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome. May I especially welcome our distinguished panelists who have taken time out from their various preoccupations and have found time, particularly on a Sunday evening or other parts of the day elsewhere, to be with us for this session. May I also very warmly welcome the representatives and members and heads of a number of government departments and agencies, led in particular by Mr. Safirullah, Secretary of IT in the Government of Kerala. As you would be aware by now, the Government of Kerala attaches great importance to this conference, a conference that is being organized on behalf of the government by the Kerala State Planning Board. What do we seek from this meeting, or this series of meetings? Kerala has led the way, and we say this with justifiable pride, backed by evidence and performance. Kerala has led in the matter of public action in developing, improving, and enhancing the well-being of its people. But this forward progress, this movement forward, cannot be sustained without the foundations in modernizing and developing all productive sectors of the Kerala economy. Kerala has the wherewithal today to move forward its foundations in education, its foundation in the physical well-being of its people, its ability to draw large numbers of its population into the activity of governance. All of this stand the state in good stead. But to move forward, we need modernity in productive activity in particular, that comes from 2 things. One, investing in science and technology. And also the second, investing in those sectors of the economy that are part of the coming trends for the future. It is a truism almost to say that IT belongs to this realm. Kerala has already made strides in IT. You will hear about it. Many of you will be aware of it in our discussions, even prior to our discussions. But we need to move forward. And Kerala, if I may say so, still is a potential player in the field of IT, with this potential needing to be realized rapidly in the years to come. It is with this idea that we have requested you, both distinguished panelists, our invitees, special invitees, and also the large number of well-wishers and residents of the state of Kerala who are joining us for this event. We would like to hear from you. We would like ideas from you. We would like suggestions from you. We would like all the cautionary statements perhaps you would like to make of how to chart this way forward for the future, particularly in the sector of information technology. With these few words, let me welcome all of you once again, and we look forward with great interest and keen awareness of the importance of the discussions that are to take place today. Thank you.
I think Shalini, your mic is on mute.
Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Let me now invite the Additional Secretary, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, Sri Mohammad Y. Safrullah IAS, for the opening remarks. Sir has previously served as the Director of State of IT Mission, Deputy Secretary of IT Department, and Project Director of eHealth Kerala. He was instrumental in bringing many novel initiatives in redefining the IT and digital governance space of Kerala, including Akshaya, e-district, e-office, e-procurement, e-data centers, Aadhaar, mobile governance, and computer emergency response team. He also served as Sub-Collector of Idukki, Assistant Collector of Palakkad, and Collector of Ernakulam. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Professor Jairam and esteemed panelists, I would like to thank State Planning Board for giving an opportunity to offer some remarks in this particular esteem in this conference. On behalf of Government of Kerala, I would like to thank the State Planning Board and point to three factors on which Government of Kerala and IT Department has been laying stress to create a robust IT foundation for growth. The first one is creating effective networks. Kerala was one of the first state to create a wide area network, that is the Kerala State Wide Area Network, and later on followed with novel initiatives like national infrastructure and other government marketplace projects. One of the initiatives that recent past what government has done is to create a project called Kerala Optic Fiber Network, that is a KFON project, where we are envisaging to provide high-end bandwidth connectivity to more than 30,000 government offices and many households in our state. Today in Kerala, we have about 75 lakh families. And through this project, we envisage that subsidized or free internet connectivity would be provided to about 20 lakh families in near future. This is one of the innovative projects which Government of Kerala has embarked upon. The second aspect I would like to point out is the stress on innovations. Through a robust startup ecosystem, through the last few years, or I would say from 2014-15, when Kerala first created the startup policy, it was the first in our country, and then gradually built on with various projects, not only software, but even in hardware ecosystem. And later on expanded to government as a marketplace, where we started bringing in innovations in governments also, in various departments, by conducting events, by throwing up challenges to government departments, to senior executives to come up with solutions on how we can help them. So the second aspect I'd like to point out is on the stress on innovations through startups and also in government departments. The third aspect I would like to point out is the progress in e-governance. Kerala is one of the top player in e-governance today. It's not only on transaction, but also in the field level. It started roundabout in 2002-3 with the formation of the Akshaya centers, which later on evolved as a common service center. And with the advent of the Kite project, which was earlier called as IT at school. So with this, what happened is the IT aspects, the basic IT literacy was inculcated as a part of curriculum right from early years of schooling. These two projects were one of its first in our country, which helped in creating digital literacy among the people of the state. So these are the three major thrusts which has been happening in the past couple of decades, I would say, that is to create a robust ecosystem on IT, stress on innovations, and importance on e-governance, that is the government to citizen services. I have very strong confidence in the future of our state in the area of IT, and it's because of three reasons. One is the presence of skilled manpower. Today, I believe we have a lot of manpower in the new age technologies, and because the COVID has created a lot of restrictions and the digital disruptions which has happened, I feel that this particular skill set that our state has makes it in a unique position where we can tap on to the opportunities which are presented. The second one, as I pointed earlier, is a robust ecosystem of software, network companies, and also the startups. Here, I would also like to point out that today Kerala has the highest density of broadband in the rural areas in the entire country. If you see rest of our country, we have a lot of digital divide between the rural and urban areas. But if we see the 2019 Troy report, we find that the broadband density in the rural areas of our country, the Kerala tops first. So this actually points out to the lesser digital divide in our state. But yes, there is a digital divide, but it's lesser to a large extent. So the third one is that on the new policies which have been brought in my view, in the recent budget, which actually lays the foundation for creating Kerala into a knowledge society. Again, stressing on the new age skills, focusing on generating new employment through innovative aspects in startups, promoting them, creating digital centers of excellence, creating higher education centers of excellence. So these are the reasons in which reasons because of which I am confident that we have a strong future, and Government of Kerala and IT department are committed to create a robust ecosystem on software and also hardware, where the innovations can flourish, we can generate more jobs, and we can establish, we'll be creating a system where entrepreneurs can flourish and create companies. So with this, I like to end my talk. And I strongly believe this conference, Kerala Looks Ahead, would generate a lot of ideas where IT department can learn and take and adopt them in the years to come. Thank you very much, Professor.
Shalini, you are again on mute, please.
And they're all good here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for mentioning the three major thrusts that is happening in the IT sector, and as you have mentioned, the skill development and this digital center of excellence. Thank you so much for your inputs. Now it is indeed my pleasure to welcome Dr. Saji Gopinath, Vice Chancellor, Kerala University of Digital Sciences, Innovation and Technology, for presenting the theme. Before taking up the role as Vice Chancellor, Kerala University of Digital Science, Innovation and Technology, he served as CEO of Kerala Startup Mission and was instrumental in shaping the startup ecosystem. His views, knowledge, and leadership skills promoted Kerala as a top performer in the state startup ranking framework by Government of India and transformed KSUM into the world's #1 public business accelerator. Dr. Saji Gopinath served IIM Kozhikode for over 17 years as Professor, Dean Academic, and Dean Development. He played a pivotal role in setting up satellite campus for IIMK at Kochi, IIM Amritsar campus, as well as setting up Asia's first synchronous e-learning program in executive management education. He's a recipient of several national and international awards for his academic and professional achievements. We are very keen on listening to you, sir. Please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good morning, Good evening. I think we have participants from different parts of the world joining us to this very exciting discussion on how Kerala should move ahead into the field of information technology, specifically focusing on software and related aspects. Let me make a brief presentation on this, and then so just to take put the thing in perspective. Honorable Secretary has given a very interesting way in which Kerala is developing its IT ecosystem on various counts. Now, when we are looking at the next stage of growth, how do you leverage on these aspects is something which we need to look at. We all know that information technology continues to be a sunrise sector with almost 8% growth, year-on-year growth for last 5 years. And with the 191 billion USD in 1920, we currently contribute almost 10%, maybe 8.9 to 9% of the country's GDP. The important thing is that almost 75% of this is coming from exports, as the data shows that the domestic market is yet to have a larger chunk, which is a possibility for us to look at. We have the India is considered to be a global player in this market, with 55% of the global market in ITS services being addressed by us. And we have various companies offering over 1,000 plus global delivery centers in 80 plus countries. And the predictions with NASSCOM and many other agencies is that in the next 5 years, we will be expecting to touch around $350 billion. And interesting thing is that even though almost half of that is coming from ITES, you also have the other elements like R&D, engineering, research and development, BPM, hardware, etc., also contributing to that. The COVID, we also see a spurt of e-commerce activities, which also is adding to the sector per se. And in the job front, it provides today close to 4.36 million employment. The last year itself, around 2.05 lakhs jobs have been added into the sector. And this year also, there is an increase in the thing as such. Now, this is basically the national scenario. When you come to the Kerala scenario, the data with the IT park shows that close to around 25,000 crore turnover happening. There are 800, 900 companies operating from the both three parks, major three parks. Around 21,000 crores is from the parks and remaining coming from the outside. And if you look at the export of this happens to be around 80%. But while this number, when you compare with the larger IT numbers which we are looking at, is small, if you look at Kerala's export as a whole from the state, including the merchandise, the IT today accounts for around 25 to 30%, which is actually significant. And I believe that when we are going further, we need to actually start looking at how do we actually enhance this? How do we enhance this, both the turnover, the export, and the employment potential in the sector as such. We have close to around 1.5 lakh employment, of which around 110,000 is being employed in IT parks itself. And we have, while we have this number here, a large number of IT professionals coming from the state. In fact, Honorable Secretary mentioned about the large manpower which is available, which is actually now working in different IT companies in India as well as abroad. Now, this Kerala enabled this whole thing. In fact, I think I'll not want to repeat this because this has been already been spoken by Secretary. We have 4 key elements we can look at which shapes the Kerala IT as of today. You have the infrastructure and the industry, which is primarily the IT parks, the incubators, the industry bodies which support that. Then you have the capacity building happening by the various universities, technology university, the digital university. Then there are specialized centers like ICT Academy, IC4, and some very niche centers which has been now being set up in blockchain and AI and related areas. Then you have an infrastructure, a very ambitious project has been discussed, which looks at connectivity to even to the rural areas. And you also have a skill delivery platform, which is already in place, where the training at all levels across the state is actually possible. We also have a very strong governance model, and many of them have been driven by Mr. Safrullah when he was the IT mission director, and many of those actually are won national or international acclaim. So all said and done, this is primarily where the Kerala's the IT enablement is happening today. But when we're going further, I think we need to look at some of the key aspects which make us distinct, including the cost advantage. Look at the quality of life. Trivandrum, Kerala is actually one of the places where the best quality of air is available. Air pollution is extremely low. We have talent, we have infrastructure being built and also available, and then there are industry partners which are also helping this growth to the next stage. But what is more important for us maybe to discuss today is to look at what are the global trends and what are the national trends, and how do we actually look at developing from this foundation which we have already developed. So when you look ahead, and that is basically the theme of the whole thing, we can look at IT sector broadly, and I'm sure that the discussion by the eminent panelists will go deeper into this, so I'll not cover into deeper aspect, but basically to put on a context. We can look at two aspects. There's a short-term aspect and there's a long-term aspect. The short-term aspect, we have seen the COVID actually supporting some of the new industries, supporting some of the new sectors, and even sort of triggering the digital transformation in sectors which otherwise was not being looked at by the IT industry per se. The other side, on the work side also, there is a larger amount of decentralized model of working, which is actually happening in the short term. And some of this trend obviously is going to continue into the long term also. But in the long term, there is, as far as the IT industry is concerned, especially software industry is concerned, there is an increased emphasis on the knowledge-based work. You're moving from the labor arbitrage or cost arbitrage to more quality and more in-depth IP type of a work, which is one of the key trends. We also see that from a narrow vision of an IT, we are moving to a larger digital economy model where the digital transformation of various sectors is actually going in the offing. And it is already happening, and there are studies which have basically supported that. And there is also some structural changes happening into the industry, specifically in the job and the way it operates. Some of these aspects we will quickly look at, and then look at how Kerala can actually leverage on that. So if you look at the short-term trend, there is acceleration happening in a few sectors, and we have seen some very successful startups emerging in those areas. We have seen the communication collaboration tools, video streaming tools. Some of us maybe remembering that a company from not from a city but from a slightly rural area of Kerala has actually produced a product which is now being accepted nationally as the best product in the video conferencing system. So we also have hyperlocal services which is getting emerging throughout the state and throughout the country, even different parts of the world. There is an e-commerce based logistics which has shown growth. Your remote tele services, especially in the context of the health, has gained currency during this period. The edtech, fintech has actually gained a lot of currency during this period. As I said, online gaming, entertainment, new ways of distribution of content, these are all happening, and they are all accelerated in the short time. On the other side, some of the other conventional sectors like travel, hospitality sectors have actually had challenge, and which actually led to the industries or IT industry, which is depending on them, also have issues on that. We will hear that from the experts who will be speaking on that. Manufacturing sector also had some sort of a slowdown in the last COVID and even before the COVID, and that also reflects on the IT which enables that sector. But the positive side is that when there is an operational excellence which is required in this context, you have IT tools which actually support that. There is new product rollout like 5G and all, which we were expecting, has actually got delayed. And there is also challenges of infrastructure augmentation, which also slowed down due to the COVID. And mobility and supply chains are also becoming an issue, which affects the IT's growth into the short term. But other side, there is a substantial amount of blended work models which have evolved, where you have physical and digital work happening together, work happening away from the brick and mortar centers to the digital centers. And there is also an increase in the remote working. But more than this, we need to look at the long-term trends, and the long-term trends, there are enablers on the long-term trend, which is happening not just now, it is happening over the years, and it's actually going into an exponential manner today. There is an enhanced development in the communication technology, the 5G technology, the Internet of Things, which is actually creating a next set of revolution into this world. And then there is we also seen that the social media has actually grown in leaps and bounds during this period. Because of the want of time, I'm not going to the specific numbers. I'm sure that will get discussed as we proceed. And new models of distribution of digital products. So the distance between the producer and consumer has get reduced when you have newer channels of distribution, which actually created a different level of production into the IT space as such. The genomics, precision medicine, precision agriculture, these are actually getting increased relevance, which brought in newer solution providers in the space. And biggest thing is the data analytics is taking a center stage with big data, artificial intelligence, and other industry 4.0 technologies, creating new opportunities both in developing for the jobs as well as for the product as well as service development. We have also seen that cloud computing is now becoming a very common thing. So the cost of the infrastructure is actually coming down. So that trend actually accelerated the decentralized development of the IT systems and IT organization in a large manner. This is one side of it. The other side of it is that there is a substantial amount of increase of adoption of IT in the conventional sectors. One of the studies by World Economic Forum actually looks at multiple sectors: agriculture, automobile, construction, all of them, and they actually seen that there is a disruption which is happening, and the IT solutions are going to enable almost all these sectors to take it into the next level as such. Be it the consumer sector, be it the utilities, logistics, media, healthcare, all these sectors, there is a substantial amount of digital transformation which is happening. In fact, the recent budget has actually primarily put a digital transformation mission to accelerate this process so that the development of the sector can actually have its own ramifications in their society per se. The other long-term trend is, which I said, is the transition to the knowledge industries, where you are moving from the pure service to IP-based and more on internet industry 4.0 technologies. And digital is going to become a very key strategic enabler for various sectors for its enhanced growth per se. Now, all these things are actually being looked at, and also the last thing which on the long-term trend is on the change in the employment structure. It started in a small way in the years back, where platform economies are coming in, the gig work is happening, but it suddenly actually it increases largely in number, and there is an increased number of freelancers and platform economy. Even though the percentage is still small when the larger numbers are concerned, it's expected to grow in an exponential manner, which as a state like Kerala, with a decentralized architecture available, decentralized social infrastructure available, can be a major advantage if you can actually tap it on that. Now, India has actually really ran this wave. We have used this in the past. Even though we have a very strong service companies, we also have moved into the product space. A lot of interesting startups have come out looking at the newer technologies. So widening of technology scope was one of the key things which has happened in the recent past. And this is being, as I said, this is driven by IT, some of the older IT companies, as well as a large number of startups. We have today around 11 companies which is having a sales in excess of $1 billion USD. And you have 24 unicorns with a valuation of $1 billion in the startup space. And we expect another 50 to get into the space very, very soon. Around 12 to 15% year-on-year growth is happening in the case of startups. Another positive side, which so India's growth is that compared to many other sectors, the gender inclusivity is higher in IT sector. With 35%, there is still a way to go, but I think it is much better than many of the other sectors. So there is an overall growth which is happening over there. And as I said earlier, there is an increase in SaaS solutions and e-commerce solutions. So with this sort of background is basically where we have looked at a few themes. In fact, the anchor, Mr. Santosh Kurup, will go into the more details into each of these. and with the experts' opinion, we looked at 4 areas of focus where we will be able to look at in this session. One, we need to learn some of the past, immediate past and earlier past, and see how some of the companies, some of the sectors are actually growing, and how do we actually position that? How do we actually maybe develop when we are looking at the future roadmap for the IT industries per se. The second thing is Kerala always speaks about inclusivity, and it's one of our key things that people-centric development is one of the key element of Kerala. So when digital transformation is a very key element in which multiple sectors can actually benefit by making digital as a core theme for their development, the digital transformation of traditional sectors is going to be a very key element which we need to look at. What is the scope of that? What are the challenges to that? How do we actually look at this domestic market? And how do we actually create products, create services so that which will actually support the traditional sectors to the next level. And the third level, obviously, is the employment creation. As a state which always invests substantially the public amount in educating people, it's important that we need to see how we can actually make that for the state's benefit and the economy's benefit. So the new work patterns and skilling requirements, new work patterns may give good opportunities. The skilling requirements have to be looked at, and that's another theme which we will be discussing as we proceed. And the IT industry as a whole is actually climbing up the value chain. It's moving into more of IP-based products. So there's a need for developing more on R&D, the knowledge products from various technology institutions, academic institutions, etc. This is also one of the areas where we need to actually look at much more discussions into the nuances of getting it done. So this sort of a larger framework of themes are basically what we were looking at in this in today's session. Sure that the deeper discussions is going to discuss this in detail. Let me close by looking at a framework which I'm sure that Mr. Santosh will discuss more detail on this. Primarily to see how, when Kerala looks ahead in IT, a model of transformation or model of going further depends on few aspects. It depends upon the type of offerings which you have to develop from various players. Could be the companies per se. It also could be the feeders to the companies, which could be the academic institutions, such organizations, and the ones which actually monetize it, the commercial organizations and channels. We need to look at how do we reshape that into the days to come, looking at some of the success from different part of the world. We also require support systems. We have already heard from Honorable Secretary about some of the key projects which Kerala is doing on that, but what are the other things which we may have to look at on the support systems to enable development of this? But you also require a policy framework and a governance framework which enables this and accelerate it. So what type of changes have to be done on those aspects? Whether there are points which actually limits Kerala's IT growth as on today. How can we actually address that when we're going further? And then obviously this will lead to more international access. As I said, the exports have to go up. The more industry connects, the digital transformation has to happen. So you have other skill training, the employment, and other support to e-governance and things like that. So this is basically a broad framework in which I believe that we will have discussions happening today. And with that opening context, thank you very much for a patient listening, and over to you, Mr. Santosh, for the remaining of the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking us through the short-term and long-term trends in IT, India's growth in the era of disruption, and Kerala's way ahead in major 4 areas. You've discussed learning from the past, inclusivity, employment creation, and climbing the value chain. Thank you for the valuable discussions and points. Now we have the presentations by experts in the panel. Each expert will be presenting for 10 minutes. The presentations will be followed by discussion. As experts today, we have Professor T. Keshavadas, Director, Healthcare Engineering Systems Center, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Sri Shrikant Armanitaya, Global Talent and Enablement Service Leader, Global Delivery Service Ernst & Young. Sri Nandakumar K. Nair, Founder and CEO, Suntech Business Solutions. Sri Anup Ampika, CEO, Clap Research, and Professor Rajeshri MS, Vice Chancellor, APJ Abdul Kalam Technological University. The session will be moderated by Sri Santosh Guru, CEO, ICT Academy Kerala. Sri Santosh Kumar sir heads ICT Academy of Kerala and has been involved in imparting various skill programs to faculty members and students. Before joining ICT, he was the branch head for TCS, managing over 4,000 employees operating the unit in Kochi. With an experience span of over 20 years in the IT industry, he has performed multiple roles, both in India and abroad. He has worked in Australia, UK, and US in a multitude of responsibilities. He is certified in organizational change management and software quality assurance. He
Shalini,
has
I
played
think
a major role.
I think let us focus more on the
Okay,
speakers.
without
I'm okay.
delaying further, let me welcome you, sir.
Thank you. I really appreciate you doing my introduction and for the kind words, but I think the spotlight should be on the speakers. Sorry for interrupting in between, Shalini. Firstly, thank you, Kerala State Planning Board, for organizing such a wonderful event today. And we got all the right set of experts and leaders from around the world. At the outset, I also wanted to thank all the expert panelists. First of all, it is a Sunday. I know it is perhaps the only day where you get a break, and we happen to pull you into this intellectual discussion, and you had to prepare a lot and things like that. And I also appreciate the fact that we have Dr. Kesh joining early in the morning. As we have is actually on the road. He keeps connecting in or switching on the video and switching off to save the power. And we also have people from their homes connecting, keeping away the families and things like that. Firstly, I really understand that this being a Sunday and getting onto the call is not so easy. Even myself, door anytime my kids can come open it. So please don't get embarrassed if somebody is coming and opening your doors. I perfectly understand the situation. But on the note, I think we have structured this program in such a way that we have deep dive thematic sessions here, based on which the planning board is trying to obtain insights on what it needs to do for the next 5 years. So this is not a conference of convergence of various ideas and thoughts, but it is actually going to be used by the state board for its planning in the next 5 years. So in that way, I personally felt it very exciting and very important a theme for us. I wouldn't extend a lot of time in introducing all the speakers, but the way we're structuring this is we have a beautiful combination. I think we have a couple of leaders who can provide an outside-in perspective of what's happening outside Kerala and then coming into in the international market and share their experiences. And we also have leaders who have grown into international leaders from Kerala. So we will have a beautiful in perspective and an inside-out perspective, and then we will try to converge it towards the end of it. So I really wanted to step straight into the conversation process as I have been connecting to you over the past few days on our chat boxes. The first session we have only outlined and we have set it as free form presentations. If you have any slides to share, feel free to share. You can speak on those points. And then in the next round, we will come to a couple of very specific questions. In the process, I think we will also be getting questions from the audience. So I understand that so he is on the road, so he has to step out in between so that he can reach his family at the earliest. So kindly bear with us, Mr. Sri, for some more time. I wanted to start off so that we have some perspectives also and a bit of a sequence coming in. Start off with Professor Kesh. Professor Kesh has been working closely with the ecosystem in Kerala, and he has worked, in fact, with Kerala Startup Mission, Kerala Innovation Council, in ICT Academy, and the university to provide a lot of insights to what could be done from best practices perspective, from a US and global perspective. So, moving to first, Dr. Tej, for your thoughts and presentations, and then based on what Dr. Saji has outlined as what we are looking at from a context perspective, over to you, sir, for sharing your perspectives, please.
Thank you, Santosh. I hope you can hear me. First and foremost, I appreciate being invited to this panel. I also want to thank Dr. Jairam, Dr. Gopinath, and Santosh, and the secretary for I really enjoyed the introduction session, Dr. Gopinath's broad presentation. Was very valuable to see where Kerala is coming from and where it is going. What I will try to do today is give you a quick glimpse of what we have seen in the last 8 months, which has been an eye-opener to many of us in the sense that many of the progress that we thought will take 10 and 20 years is now happening at the breakneck speed. And so I would like to share in a couple of minutes the kind of things that I think has been very, very revolutionary. At the same time, give you my perspective on where the industry is going the next 5 years, and perhaps see if that can be aligned with the Kerala's mission, and take from what it has achieved over the last 5 or 10 years and make it even better. So what I'll do is I will just share 1 or 2 slides. I just made a quick slide to point to some of the things I'm going to talk to you about. So let me share. I hope if I can get a permission to share, I will like to.
Sorry, may I request the organizers to kindly co-host permissions to be given to Dr. Kesh, please? Yeah, you are a co-host now, sir.
Yes, I can see that. Okay, so I want to focus on four areas, and let me just start by just giving you some perspective and experience that we had undergone. So the 4 areas that I will speak maybe a couple of minutes each is the healthcare, a broader industry, some knowledge themes in terms of the lack of manpower today we are seeing globally, and the area which I think Kerala should also focus on, and that is the R&D, and I'll talk on each of them. So let me just start by talking about healthcare. At the time when the COVID hit, our campus had to go into a complete Zoom mode, and we were debating what we should do to make the campus safe. So we came up with a very elaborate testing methodology in our campus. We converted one of our diagnosis lab in the veterinary medicine college. So I come from University of Illinois, which is very big. We have about 48,000 students, over close to 10,000 faculty members and scientists, and many, many colleges inside a university in the same town. And it turned out that our veterinary medical college was always famous for virus testing for animals for the US government. So we converted that. And then over a period of 2 months, we set up a testing protocol for everyone on campus, such a way that every student and faculty gets tested every 4 days. On a daily basis, we test 20,000 people in our campus every day. By November, we had tested 1 million times. We were testing 4% of all this tests in the United States happened in our university campus. What it did is our positive rate in our campus is 1.2%, which is about 15 times lower than the US percentage of testing. For doing that, we actually relied on many, many things. Everyone knows the PCR testing technologies. We actually created saliva testing, which later on got the early approval. Now it is used all over US. So it was one fine day in the morning that a bunch of our people said, we need to test saliva, and we did test on about 5,000. We came up with our own protocols and things like that. So we could test it at a very, very high rate. The second thing that we did was we spent significant time on looking at the IT infrastructure required to do this testing at this scale that included everything from AI modeling to pool testing, where you can test multiple people simultaneously in one test bed, to creating mobile system such a way that everyone who gets tested, we get the results within about 6 to 7 hours in our phone. But then phones also check out each other. So when you walk into a classroom, our AI software knows everybody who's in a classroom. So even if one student gets positive, we share the information with everybody in the class without actually giving names of the people. So we maintain the privacy of the students. And at the same time, we had to do this in multiple platforms, in iOS and Android. They all had to talk to each other. And we built this entire system in a matter of 60 days. So we have the safest campus. We know everything that's going on. And so that really bought into this big vision of what the future of healthcare is going to look like. And what we saw was that people were taking amazing ideas which were on journal papers published and converting into products at a very rapid pace. Tests that can give results in 5 minutes. There are many of these technologies came from a campus, but from across the country as well. Typically, what people would take 5 to 10 years to get an FDA approval was being done in 90 minutes. It simply showed that the scale and the accelerated way that technology was moving forward had changed. The whole concept of how we innovate had actually changed in 9 months. So while we saw a lot of suffering and how the global economy and the global network and interactivity completely collapsed, affecting certain sectors more than other, right? Like, for example, in the hospitality and the tourism industry, people are absolutely, there are no jobs and people are suffering like anything. At the same time, the IT industry has seen the kind of growth that is unbelievable. Okay, just if you look at those companies like Facebook and even companies in the space industry, they have doubled and tripled. And in fact, Facebook and Google put $5.7 billion investment in the Geo network, just showing where it is going. So I will just spend 1 minute each on the 4 sectors. So in healthcare, the biggest focus in the next 5 years is going to be on the telehealth environment, and that we are already seeing that. In fact, in my center, we have a call for proposals to address this issue. How can we spread the vaccination around? It was inventing vaccination people thought was the biggest challenge, and amazingly, that challenge was met. However, distributing vaccination, people never thought it was going to be a problem, or people did not put a thought into that. But if you look at today, the last mile problem is the biggest problem in vaccination today. It's not the first 99 miles, which people have done over the last 10 years of research. So how do we model? How do we look at even issues in taking into the rural parts of in India, rural parts of US, anywhere in the world? How do you reach? So the telemedicine focus is going to be the next focus for the next 5 years. People are not going to be going to healthcare like it used to be before. And I can give you a number of examples. During the COVID, doctors started seeing patients on Zoom. US has very, very strict regulation. People are sued for privacy. But yet, all of a sudden, Zoom was being used to meet patients and giving advice. Once that has happened, what patients have realized is that you can get a very good level of care on Zoom, sometimes better than going in a hospital and sitting in the waiting room for hours. Which means that today, now many of the hospitals are open, but people are calling for Zoom treatment. They're saying, we don't want to come to hospital. What it means is that it has opened the eye of people that you can get healthcare through network. So everything that goes around this telemedicine is going to be the future. This could include everything from digital pathology. How do you test digitally, and doing this AI on the cloud? We are putting a lot of effort on that. Looking at genomics, looking at how CRISPR technologies is going to get treatment. How do you send kids to home rather than sending people? And in a country like India, where the health system is under great pressure, sometimes the cost of investing on buildings can be now converted into digital investments so that people can be treated at home. Because one thing India has been very successful is on distributing mobile technologies to everywhere in the country. And so you can utilize that. So which means new generation of apps. How do you track people with wearable computing so you can keep people healthy at home? How do you leverage on the growth we will see in 5G? How can we use treatment and robotic medicine? And robotics is again getting a tremendous growth. Recently, my university tied up with IIT Delhi on a 500 crore investment from the government of India for core robotics. And the biggest focus in that is medical robotics, which we are very proud to say that we have been selected to work with IIT Delhi and a bunch of industry to develop a new robot for India and Asian market. So that is going to be huge. In the industry sector, actually, Dr. Gopinath actually touched on many of the topics which I was planning on discussing. But I would like to highlight that the warehouse technology logistics is growing like anything, simply because people are now shopping from home. Now, will people again go back and spend as much time in shops and malls? Perhaps they will, but people also now understand that they can do some really high quality shopping from home. So which means that the back end for that is really growing. There is a huge shortage of people who work in warehouse and the robotics and the automated vehicles that runs in the robot and integrating them. There is a huge shortage, and Amazon hires 1,000 people a day or 2,000 people every day. They have hired over 200,000 people in a matter of 6 months in US and globally, including Hyderabad and other places. That simply shows the shortage and the network and all the technologies that goes with that. Surprisingly, some of the other areas we have seen really a lot of interest is in self-driven cars and battery technologies. That is going to come. Tesla just opened their new R&D in Bangalore. Why can't they open in Trivandrum? It can happen. Space technology has got a huge boost. Kerala has already invested, I know from my previous conversation, aerospace industry. Perhaps this is the time to become very visible to globally that we can do aerospace in Kerala better than anybody else. And that may bring companies like SpaceX and others looking for talent into Kerala. None of this thing will happen without the knowledge industry. And I want to emphasize this again, that there is real shortage of people who understand AI, ML, who understand data science, who understand digital twinning, virtual reality. There is a real shortage. And this is not an artificial shortage. I have a startup company which we work, and when we want to hire one person with a skill set of AI and VR, sometimes we spend 3 months in spite of being in a university town which produces hundreds and hundreds of students, simply because every student who graduates with an AI in the certificate, they get multiple offers. I can just tell you that recently a master's student with an AI got an offer for $240,000 salary. Just convert that. This is like 4 times the salary what a PhD would get about 2 or 3 years back. So that is simply a demand and supply, and this is an eye opener for everybody that AI is indeed going to run every part of our life, and who runs it. So when you talk about IT sector, this is the time to pivot into deeper IT like AI, machine learning, and cybersecurity. These are all great areas that people are going to look for. Digital twinning is now is the buzzword. Companies are really trying to do almost everything in a simulated and digital way, so they can convert that into more optimized solutions. So building education to meet them, that may be at the college level, but it also could be at ITI level, at trade level, where people learn about IoT and how to implement this. So keep an eye open to how education is done. In the US, we see this happening at community colleges. Community colleges are 2-year colleges. That is after high school. And after community college, they can still go and spend 2 more years and get college degree. Those kind of programs can also have a huge impact. So I will stop here, and I will look forward to the conversation and hearing everybody else in the panel, and jump in when you have a Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kesh. I think it was a very extensively covered session, and it is so interesting to see that there are a lot of opportunities. In fact, I just wrote down the quote which the famous scientist said, right? In the midst of every crisis lies the great opportunity. I think IT industry has proven that this crisis has been converted into a big opportunity. You have covered the domain that could perhaps outgrow in the near future. You have also covered the knowledge aspects of it, and also very interestingly, the fundamental research side of it is something often missed by whenever government looks at policies, interventions, and things like that. So thank you so much. And a very quick quote, I think in the near future, you are going to change the acronym of OP to ZP, is it? From outpatient to Zoom patient kind of a thing. So which is again, the change of industry revolution 4.0 perhaps is what is out to play. So we may come across new acronyms even in Kerala. Thank you so much, Dr. Kesh.
Thank you so much.
Please stay on. We will have next round coming in. I wanted to quickly move on to Mr. Srikanth. Mr. Srikanth, you again, we are continuing from an outside-in perspective. So we heard from Dr. Kesh about what is happening from the US perspective, and also globally, what are the changes that are coming in to some extent. Now, moving into the other big disruption that is happening is in the field of people and talent and the jobs and associated ecosystem out there. So continuing on the international to the national to the Kerala level, you worked in the international arena. You worked in the new job type scenarios like gig economy, and you have a major role to play in developing EY's talent pool even in Kerala. So with this wide experience that you have, I think we are very eager to understand from your view, what are the things that Kerala should look ahead. Over to you, Mr. Sri. I think your voice is not audible. Are others able to hear, or is it only me?
Not able to hear.
No, Sri, I think we are still having some audio issues out there.
Can you unmute? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Clear.
I think my headphone is not working. I'll take it out.
Yeah, no issues.
First of all, good evening to all, and thanks for inviting me for a short interaction with all of you. So as Santosh mentioned, I'm born and brought up in Trivandrum. When I was a kid in 1993, playing cricket in the field around where today most of the IT parks are situated. Till yesterday, I had a small interaction with some of the people in Kerala. I've been closely watching how Kerala has evolved into IT and IT enablement sector. My experience covers around 27 years. Out of that, I spent almost 15 years in software product companies like Computer Associates, DXC, and currently with the EY. EY also, we do a lot of software engineering from Trivandrum and Kerala, especially in, Cochin. So what I would like to cover is basically 3 to 4 points to make a big appeal how we can develop Kerala into a global software hub or application development hub. I would like to call this concept as unique identity and soul of Kerala. How can we build a unique identity for Kerala, and how can we identify and co-create a soul of Kerala which attracts millions of jobs into Kerala for software engineering especially, and application development and digitalization. The first and foremost thing, if you really look at, like Professor Kesh has mentioned, a lot of changes are happening in the software engineering or application engineering. And this is going to open up a lot of opportunity to provide jobs in Kerala. And the first one is today we call digital software engineering or application engineering. I will allude how digital software engineering opens doors to many jobs in Kerala in few points. The second one is today software engineering is agile. Again, agile in a distributed computing world provides a huge opportunity to crowdsource jobs from everywhere in the world. Earlier, these are privileged to few cities and few countries. Today, software engineering, thanks to agile and distributed computing, can happen anywhere from the world. The third big change happening is DevOps. DevOps and continuous integration also provides distributed computing more a possibility. Like if you really look at Toyota, who manufacture car, have 2,000 components. And many of the components, 82% of the components Toyota doesn't manufacture, they crowdsource from various parts of the world. So similarly, the DevOps and continuous integration concept of software engineering promotes crowdsourcing a lot, which can be sourced across the globe. The next biggest change happening is microservices. Like, I think some background noise. All of you can go on mute, that will be great. Thank you. Second, so next important concept happening in the software engineering is called the microservices. Compared to monolithic, can you go on mute, please? Compared to monolithic software engineering or monolithic platforms today, you can do microservices. That means you can develop small applications or small functionality of a bigger software and assemble using DevOps as well as front-end integration. So that also gives phenomenal opportunity for distributed computing. So all these things we need to really understand and appreciate how we can really synthesize and develop Kerala into a bigger hub of software engineering. So in this context of digital software engineering, first and foremost, employers like EY. In my 27 years, I worked for many multinational companies developing development centers across the globe in Eastern Europe, China, Southeast Asian countries. India, within India, I had an opportunity to develop centers in Shimuga, which is a tier 3 centers in Karnataka, where no airport also located. You have to travel from Bangalore. Then Himachal Pradesh, Solan, I have developed a software engineering center. Then Indore, we have developed. So many of the tier 3 centers, we developed software engineering. And I would like to share some of my thoughts around how tier 3 centers, including some of the centers in Kerala, can be a knowledge hub, like Professor Kesh has mentioned, and provide software engineering opportunity. The first and foremost thing all of us need to acknowledge when it comes to Kerala, from the cost of software engineering, it is one of the most interesting and provides a huge cost advantage to many companies. I have done an analysis between Kerala and centers like Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, and Noida and Gurgaon. I got always 20% efficiency in cost in direct labor. When it comes to indirect labor, including IT network and facilities, we get another 15 to 20%. So companies like us really look at cost as an advantage, and that is not going to go away in the near future. Every software engineering and application developed a competitive cost structure. So Kerala continue to provide this cost advantage. One of the appeal to the most of the decision makers and administrative managers in Kerala is to do not lose your cost advantage. In fact, we have around 7,000 employees in Kerala. I always tell my managers and leaders, when it comes to unique identity and soul of Kerala, let us maintain that cost advantage, which is going to be huge when it comes to generating future leadership opportunities in Kerala. The second one is pyramid management. In terms of pyramid management, where our organizations struggle, getting a lot of people at the lower of the pyramid with 2-3 years of experience or college graduates is a little easy. But if you really want to look at end-to-end software engineering from Kerala, we have to manage the entire pyramid. We need to hire experienced people with the 4 to 6 years of software engineering or IT, or some architects or project managers, product managers, we find extremely difficult. So we need to put our thinking hats and see how can we build middle of the pyramid and the top of the pyramid leadership in Kerala. Maybe attracting people who left for a better prospects across the globe from Kerala, getting them back into Kerala and let them work from Kerala. Because don't take this as a small thing. In order to have a software engineering hub, you require entire pyramid structure, which we struggle. For example, Santosh, I can give you 500 jobs in Kerala tomorrow at the middle of the pyramid, but we extremely struggle. And even if I go and hire, I'll be stealing from TCS or other US technologies or other companies, which will hurt. So we need to see how can we develop the entire pyramid structure when it comes to software talent. The next one, Dr. Kesh has mentioned, we need to really look at a 3-tier talent structure, which I learned from manufacturing. The 3-tier talent structure, first one is apprenticeship equivalent, like 10th grade and +2. If you really look into our trade apprenticeship like painting, carpenting, or a lot of plumbing, and these are apprenticeship we had in the legacy industry. Today in the knowledge industry or digital industry, there is a huge demands for equivalent of ITI, plumbing and other trade apprenticeship. We want people who can do IoT, who can do testing, digital software coding, and doesn't require engineering degree at all or a postgraduate degree at all. It requires just ITI 10 plus 2 years of apprenticeship. So if we can open up some of the apprenticeship in digital technology with the 2 years, not only it provides cost advantage, but also abundance of skills in Kerala. The second tier is diploma equivalent. Again, we only have in software engineering, but we can develop a lot of diploma equivalent. Like in Toyota, when I set up talent, I used to hire a lot of ITI for worker group, then supervisory group diploma, and for managerial engineers. So we can create a 3-tier a digital curriculum, which encompasses ITI apprenticeship in digital technology, diploma equivalent 3 years after 10th grade, and of course, engineering 4 years and post-graduation engineering. So that also provides a huge opportunity to drive better talent source from Kerala. Then another one, we need to continue to focus on productivity and innovation and domain knowledge. So in any software engineering, these three, apart from cost and pyramid, is equally important. I have seen Kerala, when it comes to EY technologies, we have an innovation lab in Kerala, Trivandrum. We have robotic process automation team in Kerala. So one of the things I compared productivity to other centers in terms of total man hours of work they do, and in a day, how many hours they contribute. In per hour, what's the contribution in productivity? So we need to continue to play important role in productivity and domain knowledge. When I was in DXC, the 4 domains which we nurtured in Kerala, one is healthcare. I think Kerala can provide a huge domain knowledge in the healthcare because of the healthcare systems in Kerala, one of the leading healthcare index we have in Kerala. So that domain knowledge we need to use in the healthcare products. Dr. Kesha has alluded some of the examples of including telemedicines and a lot of things we can use for productization. The next one is insurance. I think here is a huge opportunity in insurance domain. I have done a lot of work in other parts of India in developing domain knowledge on insurance. For example, when I was in DXC, I set up a center in Anandpur in Andhra Pradesh, where we did the properties and casualty as a life insurance domain with the people with the 10th grade. I have piloted some examples and got a lot of benefits. Next one is transportation, and the last one is banking. And these are the 4 areas I think, based on my research and understanding, Kerala can develop domain knowledge. And in the engineering college, I see Dr. Rajeshri. And we need to also not only teach students on software engineering or engineering concept, we need to teach domain knowledge, especially in the last semester. Selected domains like healthcare, insurance, banking, and transportation, and so on and so forth. The last one I would like to really, 2 points I focus, then I'll hand it over to Santosh, is in terms of skills. Although a lot of work ICT Academy and many universities in Kerala focus on skill development, I again appeal them to reconsider or reevaluate your skill development profile. Today, skill is at a theoretical level. Like, I'm happy to work with all of you. In EY, we have a concept called EY badges. The badges in different technology, whether it's SAP, Microsoft, or robotic process automation or IoT, we have a badge system where 3 levels of skilling is happening. One is the knowledge level, the know-how, which we can do through a lot of curriculum designing. Second one is you have to do a project after knowing it through apprenticeship program. The last one is you have to contribute to a project. So once you do 3 levels, the know, do, and contribute, the 3 levels, we can be better in skilling, which is required from the industry perspective. The last area which I touched on, the biggest change happening in digital software engineering, is not only the agile methodology, DevOps, continuous integration, microservice architecture. The microservice architecture could able to break down software engineering into small modules and tasks. Like I said, in Toyota, have 2 lakhs components in car manufacturing. In software engineering, also a lot of tasks and modules and components. And through microservice architecture, we can crowdsource it and assemble like car get assembled through continuous integration process. So I believe we have to democratize software engineering, and through the knowledge available in Nuke and corner of Kerala, through development of 3-tier academic initiatives, we can crowdsource. That's one of the biggest initiative I'm working with the Santosh and Kerala government, ICT Academy, I mean, when I say Santosh, in developing curriculum for college graduates to become a software freelance engineers who can work. The last one, when it comes to skill, I think we need to look at the entire ecosystem of diversity of skills available in Kerala. And whenever I want to have larger number of women candidates, Kerala never disappointed me. I think we need to really develop that diversity of women employees, which is a huge talent base. We need to major branding initiatives. We need to do it. Another one, I worked with a institution in Cochin called Urja. Again, I'm not advertising Urja here. And I could hire a lot of disabled people or differently abled people. And that's a huge opportunity. 95% of differently abled people are unemployed across world. At Kerala, I think with a voluntary organization like Urja, we should encourage them to develop the differently abled people to be available for software engineering. So the last one, before I conclude my remarks, I think today the scarcity of skills in digital engineering is very high. And I strongly believe the skill set can be commoditized and developed in a very agile and short form, especially with the microservice architecture. You not know entire software engineering. You can learn small modules and get into software engineering masterclass soon. And biggest change what is required today with the bureaucrats and education institutions, as well as the employees across Kerala, is a big mind shift change. You are sitting on a wealth, you are sitting on a big mine, and you need to explore. And we can be a better talent pipeline for rest of software engineering across the world. With that, Santosh, I will conclude my remark. Very happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Sri. I understand that you may have to leave, but if you're able to stay back for the next round, that would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, we'll take these questions as we go later. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
If you can, yeah, I'll try to. Otherwise, if any 1 or 2 questions, I'm very happy to answer now. Okay. Otherwise, you can carry on. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Santosh?
Yeah.
I have I have a really pointed question for Mr. Srikanth from his presentation. I think it was absolutely fascinating presentation, and I think his point about the 3 tiers of skills in parallel with what used to be in the regular, pre-IT skills, and the parallel that he thought could be evolved here. What is the possibility that we take the existing ITI Polytechnic Engineering College structure and we work to reorient part of this towards the IT domain? What are the possibilities of doing this? Do we need a new structure, a parallel setup, or should we take the existing ITI Polytechnic sector and see what we can do with it?
Yeah, I think it's a great, if you really look at, before answering that, I want to, what do you call it as, reinforce one important message. When I started software engineering journey 15 years back, the average cost of software engineering was close to $25K US. Today, the software engineering cost in my last job in DXC Technologies is around 13 to 14K US. And my aspiration was to get that software engineering cost into 10K US. And how can we achieve that 10K US? Because especially new product development require I'm not only cheaper, cost-effective talent availability is more important in today's world. So the cost of software engineering can be maintained through good pyramid management as well as the three-tier systems. So in the three-tier systems, what is required is a strong curriculum which focuses on these three-tier systems, which is reflecting today's digital software engineering. And the second one is the infrastructure. So the infrastructure, my recommendation is use existing polytechnic as well as apprenticeship ITA concept available in our ecosystem. In every state have this ecosystem available. The curriculum, we have to create a panel, consist of the educationists who are in the panel discussion today, as well as practitioners like me, to build a curriculum for this three-tier system. So in short form, use the physical infrastructure already available and use a panel to design the curriculum and intervention, what is required for three-tier system. That's what my strongest recommendation. Then we need to get 20 to 30 organizations who are ready to absorb the students who are passing out of these three-tier systems. I can volunteer. EY is volunteer. I can tell I'm ready. If you provide this three-tier system, I can give job opportunity to many of these people belongs to this three-tier system. I'm very sure many Indian companies also will come forward because they're looking for not only skills, but skills at a competitive pricing.
Can I just come in for a second? Yeah.
Excellent.
I just wanted to come in for a second, Mr. Santosh, to ask Mr. Srikanth something, which I was very happy to hear him talk about the women and that how, you know, you could get a lot of women to work for your company. But I was just wanting to ask you, how easy is it to sustain them in work? I mean, what do the employers ensure that the women will be sustained? You know, that supposing you are getting married or supposing you have to have some household problem, how do the employers ensure that, you know, these women will be retained?
Ma'am, may I know who is this? If you could also identify yourself.
This is Mridul Epan. I'm a member of the planning board and I'm working on gender. So that is why I was very happy when you talked about the women employees and also the persons with disabilities. You know, I mean, these are things I'm very happy consciously focusing on that.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the two comments from my side, you are right. At entry level, for example, EY hire 52% entry level women. But our total diversity of women employees is around 46% or 47%. But our diversity ratio in women comes down as you climb in the pyramid.
Yeah.
In any industry, but we have a very ambitious and aspirational pyramid where we want women in the middle level, especially in technology. So what we have done is we continue to revamp the policies and program, not only on maternity leave, but also working from home, flexi working hours. In fact, last day, one of my employees reached out to me saying that my in-law is sick. Can I work 3 days in a week rather than 5 days? I can take a kind of reduced working hours. So we encourage. So a comprehensive policies and program, I call it as three-tier. Again, sorry to use another three-tier. One is the workplace, worker, and the ways of work. The three things has to interact together. The workplace policies and programs, not only maternity, remote working, reduced working, flexi working hours, is very, very important to retain and grow talent. And whenever we take, for example, EY recently implemented pay parity. If you really look at women employee, if a men get $1, in industry, women employee get less than $85. But we ensured, 85 cents, we ensured that this pay parity is reduced. In every compensation, we have a pay parity lens. So maybe I can, Mridul, I can talk to you offline and walk you through various recommendations we have taken to ensure that people are not only entering, they are nurtured through the pyramid growth, as well as they are provide every opportunity to do better in their career, considering their work-life balance and multi-role women employee play.
Yeah.
Then on the diversity, the differently able people, we are working not only physically.
Mr. Srikanth, I really do not wish to, stop the flow that you are in at the moment. But perhaps may I suggest that we need to have a conversation after this conference immediately with you, and following up on the very concrete suggestions and the perspectives which have also been offered by Professor Keshav Das. I think we have a lot to deal with, and may I say that we will get back to you.
Yeah, one comment I make it on differently abled people. I want to impress the team, not only physically disabled people, and EY have a program on mental cognitive disability. If you really look at Kerala, I have done a lot of research. There are a lot of cognitive disabled people. With the remote working and working from home, we have a NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, for cognitive disability. And cognitive disability, we have seen people who are bedridden with cognitive disability. With training them is difficult, not easy, but we cracked it how to do it. But once you train them, their productivity and focus and innovation is 2 times, or may not be 2 times more than you and me as a normal human being. So I think Kerala have a lot of cognitive disability, and we need to really leverage through some of the special programs. So that's what also I want to highlight it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sri, and I appreciate your time, and I also appreciate all the other panelists as well as the participants. Thank you, Professor Jairam and Professor Mrutul, for those questions. A couple of interesting points that is about the 3-tier way of talent development. I think there is an opportunity for the pyramid management is another important thing that has come out as an opportunity for Kerala. It is also, you re-emphasize the need for know, do, and contribute when it comes to skilling. The skilling strategies needs to be redefined. And I think the prospect of microservices-based jobs are going to be significantly important for the future. I think those were the key takeaways for me. I thank you once again, Sri. I would like to now move on to the next panel. We are again going from the outside-in perspective. I have a very interesting personality here, Sri Nandakumar, fondly called as NK, who has grown from, he has worked outside, but then he came back to Kerala and set up something on his own, and then made it a multinational organization. So we would like to keenly hear from your perspectives on the Kerala look ahead aspect of it, Sri Nandakumar. Over to you.
Thank you, Santosh. First of all, thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity. Just a small correction. I never worked outside. I only worked in Keltron before I started.
Okay.
So it is not that I was inside out, going out from Kerala. So my whole career was just 5 years with ERMDC in Toronto, and then utilize the potential of Technopark formation, and then from there, of course, we went global. Today we operate 98% outside India. Okay, just to give you a context. So now let me give you, I might have the longest history in the IT, maybe within this small community. So it's almost 30 years which we've been on, but for the last 20 years, we've been, and interestingly, we were completely in software products, and that for enterprise software for large telecoms as well as for banks. So, in 2000, when during the dot-com era happened, we saw this potential of conducting business in digital world, because the internet was just rolled out. If you look at all the innovation that has happened during that time, was the potential of the digital transformation. So what I will do is I will say our journey has been predominantly in that space. I will get a give you perspective because everybody agrees that. I'll touch upon that also a little bit. Lot of points have been discussed here in terms of Kerala's potential, the talent availability, the environment, the kind of diaspora you have in a global level with the kind of access to the technologies and experiences. So if you really look at Kerala, in fact, I started, when I started this Centec in 1990s when I started. It's almost 30 years now. We just wanted to be a software product company, fundamentally because of the potential it offers in terms of creating something significantly different. And the kind of environment and the talent which we thought we should attract, and we still today, I must say that we are still remain one of the 100% India-made software. And we today, we operate in pretty much all parts of the world, right from Australia to North America, except a few, interestingly this year, we also touched upon South America by winning one of the largest customer in the South American market. So just to give a perspective for everyone, understanding, what we do is we help revenue management for large telecom companies, their billing and pricing systems, for large banks, for entire revenue management end-to-end, right from retail banking to corporate banking to investment banking space, even GTS, Global Transaction Services, which is for large corporate management. And even for travel, somebody like Amex and people like that for global travel companies, and also insurance. I mean, it's not an industry space, but we just specialize in this area. So why I'm saying this is that when we started talking about this possibility right from 2000 onwards. But what has happened in the last 8 months is fascinating for us, because everyone knew that digital world is going to make things more efficient, but the adoption was so low in last 20 years. Whatever has happened is, to give you a perspective, we have close to about 150 clients globally. And these are large banks. And if you take top 20 banks or something like in the world, at least 30-40% of them are our clients. And this is for global deployment. Just to give you a perspective, all of these places, it has been on-premise deployment. Sajid Govind mentioned about the cloud adoption. Every deal we signed this year has been cloud deployment, compared to 90% on-premise software to almost 100% cloud deployment this year. All I'm trying to bring in is the digital transformation that is happening. With all this experience, I just wanted to touch upon a few potential that is evolving in a global scale. Number one, every business, it's not about be it is financial services or be it is telecom, be it is every business has to reinvent their business model in the digital world. That's the potential, that's the opportunity that is available to us. The supply chains, the relationship with their customers, the kind of product and services they deliver, all this has to change. It is not fundamentally, it is in a retuned to contact in the digital world. People creating products and services in this for these industries, and IT is part and parcel for all this business. And in fact, IT is going to be the differentiating, or it's the operating platform in which all these businesses are going to conduct. If that is the potential, and that's going to be the kind of world, the whole business ecosystem is going to transform. The two fundamental opportunities. One is the pure knowledge of making the software, and the other dimension is about the knowledge of the domain knowledge of that is required to make things applicable for the customer. See, one of the things we are already in the product space, so we always encourage our associates to think about is it's not about going and asking the customer what you want as a product. Instead, define your customer in the new world and what you want your customer to be. And then imagine that and go and ask the customer, do you like to be one of these personas? If that is the case, how do you enable that? So it's designing for the future. So these kind of thinking, these kind of possibilities are the as the kind of substrate or thinking capability what we need to create a mark and utilize this phenomenal opportunity that's coming up in the world. And I'm not going into the plethora of potential which Kerala offers in this scenario. Because we have the skills, we have the access, the environment I'm talking about, such a beautiful environment, and which needs mindfulness, and people now can work from home, and with the connectivities which is Kerala offers, it's fascinating. And I think we have got everything to make things possible, but certain kind of determination, certain kind of possibilities, if people decide. I mean, I live today in Dubai, and I can see how things are, how this government has reacted to the pandemic, the possibilities which Kerala also offers, and the environment is fascinating if you really look at that. I don't have to, I'm not talking about too many things. How do we take this potential and invest significantly on our knowledge management and skill development? Many things have been talked about here. And make people employable from the day one. I mean, I'm saying they don't have to be even, they can even work even while they're working because of the gig model that's going to come up. Absolutely, these are not any more fictions. It is going to be the way of working. Even today, within the company, everyone is working in a gig model. See, there are certain methodologies or approaches, like, I mean, how do you decompose your task into smaller pieces of work? And how do you empower each one of them to contribute in their own time and space? There are certain methodologies that need to be evolved, that is evolving in many industries, and the industry has already mastered this art through this open source ecosystems and all that. So this all already become the fabric of the industry itself. So with that, how do you embrace and just have the determination, the academia, the industry, and the government come together as quickly as possible and say, hey, we want to be the capital of the digital transformation in this world, which is going to be the mainstream activity in the post-pandemic world. I don't want to talk about too many things. This is what I see directly in my eyes, directly in my. We had 1 month back, we had our product advisory board. This is about 10 to 15 CEOs from our largest clients and from every industry. Everyone is talking about this. How do we, because banks, to give you an idea, banks are not only trying to create, only provide financial products, they're going to create their own ecosystems of all the needs of their customers, like right from providing education all the way to owning your house or owning your business and financing you, but is known as more insight-driven financial services. It's called open banking ecosystems. And everybody is trying to create digital ecosystems of their own, and it's going to be branded in their own way, and services are going to be around it. So to me, I can go into any details on any of these areas, but just to say that there is a phenomenal opportunity of digital transformation that's happening across the world, and that is no more fiction. I have, from my own personal experience of preaching about this for 20 years and what happened in just last year, and each one of you have experienced this. I don't have to say this. This is the potential, and how we as a community, as a state, with so much potential, leverage that opportunity is the point of should be the point of discussion and thinking for the state, for the IT, especially for the IT industry. With that, I just put that point on the table, and more than happy to discuss to any level on any of these topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. NK. It is very interesting that it is a kind of reset COVID has brought in to some extent. So we often talk about we missing the IT revolution and missing the IT bus. I think this is perhaps, as you are alluding to the point, that this is perhaps a reset moment, and everywhere customers are changing, business models are changing. So perhaps it's the time to catch the bus, and we need to catch the right bus, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much. Please stay on because we will come around for a very specific set of questions after the other speakers are done. Let me go across to a friend of mine and also considered to be a leader emerged from the startup ecosystem. He is very passionate about technology. He has been a serial entrepreneur. In my understanding itself, he's continue to be a part of 2 or 3 organizations, very passionately focusing on technology trends, and provides a lot of suggestions to the government of Kerala also in a formal and informal forums. So over to you, Anup, to talk from your play in the technology arena, especially from Kerala perspective, and also working with a lot of technology startups. What do you propose, and what are your thoughts around Kerala looking ahead? Over to you.
Thank you, Santosh. It's like I said yesterday. It's a pride and privilege to be speaking in the middle of such knowledgeable people, and I can't stop wondering how NK remains to be so modest after that the huge accomplishments that he has built it. Let me just share my screen here.
You have access, Anup?
I think so.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you have.
To see the screen?
Yeah, we can see you.
All right. So, I was asked by Santosh to speak about research and development in the IT sector, and how we could put some of those researches that are happening. And probably because the companies that I run has got that research tag along with it. So both the companies have a research tag along with it, and I do some research. Yes, I mean one of the companies that I run do clinical research, which is the safety and efficacy analysis for the new drugs, and the other one actually kind of do quite a bit of research on the natural language processing. So yes, we do have some experience working with, especially with people like Ashraf, based out of IIT, and I've even tried to work with IASC a little bit in order to get some of those problems that we wanted to solve. So I think what Santosh is looking at is how do we enable an R&D ecosystem, which we might be able to use to push the innovation or the knowledge economy that we so badly want to get to in the next few years. And I also saw, from the presentation of Professor Keshavadas, there was an item called translational research that he had mentioned there, wherein, the research that he will do. And the right example is like, University of Illinois tying hands with IIT Delhi, putting 500 crores and bringing in medical robotics. That was a classic example of research that can be used. Now, so what I did is I just went and looked at the Kerala University website and took a list of all the PhDs that was granted in 2019, and it is there. So I looked at this, and then I saw 3 PhDs, and incidentally, I found out that one of this is a cousin of my wife. So I talked to her, and she's an HOD in College of Engineering, Adu. So basically, I looked at these 3, and I see analysis and optimization of resource allocation strategies for cloud computing, fine-grained search and access control in multi-user searchable encryption, and computer-aided diagnosis and grading of prostate cancer from MRI using machine intelligence. Frankly speaking, the first 2, I was not able to find an immediate application for anything that we do around us. I mean, I'm certain that there is something that it can be applied on the cloud computing systems or the encryption platforms, but I was not able to directly relate it to a problem that is around me. But I look at the third one, I might have an application for that. There is a detection of prostate cancer from an MRI that is taken using machine intelligence. So which means that I can have probably a cost-effective medical diagnostic system. So the first 2 I will kind of classify as theoretical research or subject-related research. And the third one, I would probably call it applied research. I'm sure that researchers have different terminologies for all this or taxonomies for all this, but I'm not familiar with that. So given that, and then I went and checked on an international research arena. And all I did is I just went ahead and searched for, how many patents were filed by Google. And I saw that 1,702 patents were filed by Google. And then I went to the Google AI blog, and immediately this came up. It said that improving Indian language transliterations in Google Maps. So I can easily relate this to, what is called, so currently when you drive using Google Maps, somebody is talking in English and giving you directions, right? And this Indian language transliteration is going to give you those directions in Malayalam. So that is an opportunity. And you can see the statistics. It says that this particular invention has improved those transliterations by 24 times on what is currently available. So it is a direct application of what is already available, or something that is already having a lot of implications on your life. The point that I'm trying to make is that these researches that we see here, I would say that is not being done on a product that is already being used. It's rather something that I've created through a standard research methodology, which will be a systematic literature review, identifying a problem, collecting data about that problem, analyzing and finding out a solution, and producing a report and publishing a research, which will do for your PhD. But here, what is happening is I've got Google Maps, which I use on a day-to-day basis. And how do I incrementally improve that product by putting applied research in place in natural language processing, or geographical information systems, or things like that. So given this context, I also want to tell you a story about a digital empowerment class that I took a while back. So this was during when PH Kurian sir was the IT secretary, and I think Mr. Safrullah, who is now the IT secretary, was the IT mission director. So I was talking to a bunch of government employees about what are the possibilities that you could have in the new digital ecosystem, and how is it going to transform e-governance. So I told, put a lot of slides, and it gave everything. And I gave Prashant as an example about how he uses mobile applications to get to people, and all that stories. And at the end, one person came to me, not in the open, but one person came to me and said, sir, you said all this, but what I don't understand is, if you have a court hearing, you have to stand in the court probably from morning till evening, and waiting for your turn to be called. And there is no specific system that addresses that particular problem, wherein, okay, your appointment with the hearing at the court is scheduled between 10 and 11. So I can reach at 9:30, have my hearing done, and get out of there in 1 hour. Same thing applies for a panchayat office, or a taluk office, or a government hospital. I think medical college is slowly changing in Trivandrum. But what I'm saying is that there are so many of these problems that are out there which remain unaddressed when we talk about digitization of a lot of other industries, or the global digitization that is happening. The point that I would like to go back to is, how do we connect our existing research activities, or part of it? I know that not everybody is interested in applied research. I know professors who strictly work on theory and theoretical research. But is there a way by which at least part of that research can be tied to the real world problems, and then produce some outputs which can be commercialized in the longer term? And that's the thought that I had. And I was thinking about this all day today after I got that email from Santosh. And frankly, I don't have an answer, but I kept thinking about it. So what is the current state of affairs when it comes to the industry and academia? So we have been talking about industry academia collaboration for a very, very, very long time. World over, we have been talking about it. And ICT Academy has been one great step that has been taken in that direction, because ICT Academy is controlled, I think, more than 50% by the industry veterans. The investment has come from industry and the government, and industry still controls the board of governance of ICT Academy. But even in ICT Academy, even though we are able to devise, I know that Santosh has been doing a fabulous job of devising the state-of-the-art courses, which would be, data analytics using R, or, the new generation techniques, whatever AI, ML, building models using TensorFlow, all those stuff has been taught. But simply by training a person on a certain skill is not going to make them industry ready. And it's industry's problem also. I'm not putting it on the government. I'm not putting it on the academia. It's equally a problem, or equally the industry is to be equally blamed for not being able to engage enough to make these people industry ready. Because industry is always worried about, how do I use the resource tomorrow, right? and make money out of it. So the commercial interest kind of takes the first step, and then comes the social responsibility or the academic responsibility. So there is a gap that is existing between the industry and academy. But what I was thinking and suggesting is that we have very specific set of research organizations, right? We have CDS who's working on social sciences. We have Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology who's working on life sciences. We have RCC, which is also doing a little bit of research on oncology. And I'm only talking about the Trivandrum ecosystem. I'm not very familiar with the Kerala Forest Research Institute, which is based out of Thrissur, or the veterinary or the agricultural colleges and things like that. But we do have a robust research ecosystem. Kerala do have a variety of institutes which is actually supposedly doing research, right? Can we put some focus on those research institutions and probably provide them with one problem that they might be able to solve for the society? And I just want to also, and this is just an example that I'm talking about. So can ICFOS collaborate with Google research on vernacular language research? And Google is doing a lot of work on Malayalam, right? They want to produce, voice to text in Malayalam. They want to produce their search probably in Malayalam. They want to produce their maps probably in Malayalam. So there's a lot of work that is being done by Facebook, Google, and all the people who's dealing with unstructured text. In mining that and giving some inputs. And who better than a local research institution or a homegrown research institution to talk more about the local language? And why are we not able to tap that opportunity? Because probably that's not our focus, So can we kind of focus? And I was talking to Saji also today morning, that given the decentralized workforce ecosystem that COVID has created, the large companies of the world coming in and setting shops in any of the states, for that matter, is going to be a distant dream, at least in the knowledge industry, right? So how do we engage? How do we engage with the larger organizations of the world? And one of the ways is you create a very focused area, and that focus area can be cancer research. And can I use the RCC's expertise in oncology and RGCB's expertise in life science and go back to Novartis and say that, okay, why don't we start an oncological research center of excellence here in Trivandrum, where we will be able to provide resources. So I think we need to be a little creative. And Santosh, just stop me if I'm running above time, but I'll just keep on continuing.
If you can summarize in 5 minutes, that will be great, Anup.
All right, I can do that. Yeah, no problem. So research at scale. So this is one of the problems that we have. All over India, there is only 100,000 people doing PhD, probably less, right? Now, why are we restricting people from doing research? Because you have to go through a conventional path of taking a graduation, post-graduation, and then writing a JRF and then doing your PhD, right? And you always tie research to PhD. So can we slightly change that paradigm a little bit? I know that there are a lot of Indian Institute of Research is currently looking at providing MSc with research, right? Can I, and I really like the way the person from EY, his name I think is Srikant, who put the pyramid structure. And I have the ITIs, I have the polytechnics, I have the engineering colleges, and I have a vast amount of resources that is coming from the arts and science colleges, the economists, the social scientists, the veterinarians, who are mathematicians. So can I, collect ideas about research and segment research and identify applied research opportunities? So all I'm saying is that while you submit that research application, why don't you also put a column which says that how does it solve a problem that is there in the society? If so, what is the problem that you can solve with this particular research that you're doing? If there is such a thing, then you identify those researchers early on and set apart some grants to commercialize those researchers at a later stage, after probably the PhD is done or the MSc is done. and then you also identify industry partners and take it forward. Yeah, so basically the framework that I would like to suggest is that you have the digital university that is forming. Let's have a school of applied research and let every university, research institute, industry, or even the individuals who want to do research on a certain area register themselves with School of Applied Research. And then School of Applied Research will help them with the funds, the industrial partners, and grants to take it to a commercial level once the research is completed. And then government is also planning to have what is called a one district, one cluster. So yesterday, I think in the Gulati Institute discussions, one of the things that people were talking about is the importance of having critical mass about certain industries in certain clusters. So if we declare Trivandrum as the life sciences cluster, then we should be able to make use of everything that is available, the knowledge, the infrastructure, the testing equipment, everything together, and try to, push applied research through that cluster. So I think what government can do or the planning board can do is to focus on identify maybe 3 clusters that we could work on, identify areas. It need not necessarily be a district, it can be an area, and then identify opportunities from across the state which can be put through this applied research framework, and then try to identify ideas and commercialize them in the longer term. I just wrote down some focus areas, and I think that's it. I'll stop here since we are running short of time.
Thank you. Thank you, Anup, for your wonderful ideation process. In fact, I saved me from asking the next round where there are potentially questions that I am required to do. So thank you for focusing on the question area itself. Just to summarize, I think there is an opportunity like...
Santosh, can I just make a very quick point here? And especially to our many friends from the various government institutions and agencies. And I think Mr. Anup Ambika in his presentation has hit the nail on the proverbial head with regard to the kind of orientation that work in these institutions must have. I really, warmed to your suggestion of, IC4 collaborating with Google, when there are many opportunities of various kinds like this, and you're drawing attention to this in such a strong way. I mean, that's really nice, and we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. In fact, I was about to say that the overall global level itself, the companies, I think you touched upon one interesting area. Even the industry needs to get engaged, because many a times, especially Kerala, Indian-based industry, the research focus is very limited. So very good to hear that there is not only a reach out to the academia, which traditionally we do. I think a reach out back to the industry is something which I personally drew from your session. And also skilling, I think you again touched upon, similar to what Mr. Srikanth said, the need for application level knowledge and skills being developed. That is another thing. I think the last thing is about your suggestion to Kerala, the newly formed Digital University, to make applied research as one of its key stream is a very interesting suggestion to make forward. So kindly stay back. We will come back to you. I think there will be questions from you, from the participants as well. Thank you. Let me move on to Professor Rajeshri. Madam, I know you come from an enabler network rather than an industry perspective that others are able to draw upon. May I request others to kindly can you may I request others to I know when you take calls in the evenings on a Sunday, these things can happen, so I appreciate that. Madam, we would like to hear from you, especially I think the industry may also wanted to know what are the industrialization that is happening within the university and within the academic sector. So I think it is more of an education and awareness back to the industry also about some of the great things that is being planned and is being getting executed. So over to you, madam.
Thank you, Santosh, and I also thank Planning Board and Professor Jayaraman and his team for this opportunity. And listening to these experts in the beginning, more than what I have from the university side, let me put it this way. So we listened to Dr. Kesh, who said that he is coming from a university which was able to perform at the time of need when a disaster happened, how it responded. And he was also mentioning about the university where he had around 48,000 students and 10,000 faculty members. And those are the resources which will be driving these needs of a state or globally. So let me also put this in perspective when Kerala is looking ahead. When we are thinking of universities which are 1 year old, universities which are 5 years old, how do we reach there when we are looking ahead? That should be the first thing that we need to look for before we start looking at what university can offer. So we have our own limitations with respect to the strategies that we make when we form or when we make institutions, and also the way we are funded, the way we are able to network and establish the other ingredients to perform like this and get these kind of achievements. So it was good listening to the speakers from two perspectives, one from the skilling perspective and other from the knowledge industry, how it can be powered, how the knowledge economy can be powered, how IP can come from the campuses, how research can be more applied and giving some sort of immediate applications to the industry or for the government or for any other matter which needs immediate attention from newly created knowledge. Now, first, let me talk about the skilling part. So we have listened to all the speakers, and everyone had very clear points as to how the skilling needs to be done. And especially when Srikanth spoke, he was mentioning about the 3-tier skilling and how it can be connected to the job roles and how the competencies need to be built. So those things are very critical for us also. When we are talking about skilling, new knowledge will come, new technologies will come, and there are various approaches which we use in our systems, be it in universities or be it in industry, where we give those sort of training. But what we need to have is a clear framework which tells, okay, these are the skills and this is the qualification that is expected, and these are the job roles, and we should be able to show that provided you have these skills or these competencies, you will be absorbed here, and you have a large number of in the industry or organizations which are coming to absorb those people. So that is one thing that we need to clearly specify upfront when we look at skilling part, because whenever we speak about the skills and courses, and if we try to give some additional add-on courses on the university side also, they have always these questions which comes first. What do I get if I do this training, and where is the job for me? So there we have to do a clear homework, and I think the skilling efforts that we are taking in the future and the skilling platforms that we are setting up, we have few of them which like Blockchain Academy and all, which is already doing that. Similarly, if we can have those sort of frameworks made and connected with jobs, that will be easier for us. And from the university side, we have the basic requirements for the degree, and beyond that, it is possible for us to give extra credits for these skills which are properly packaged and which will be giving competency either in both in new areas of technology and also in the domain areas. But it should be, Srikanth was also mentioning about the sector-wise, the domain-wise skilling aspects, skilling needs, and also the technology-wise skilling. So we can have clear way of structuring these and providing, offering these through well-structured platforms, which is possible to be taken by the students. Now, in KTU, we have introduced the minor program where we have come up with such minors. Now we have introduced it along with the curriculum, but it is open for industry minor also. We haven't implemented that because we have to have this way of structuring the skills and then giving the credits for that. Then it'll become possible, and it's very open from that perspective. Now that is about skilling, and it is also needed for these skills should also be through properly announced internships, where students are able to take internships and have an opportunity to be in the industry, or some entity which is able to connect them to specific industry for these kind of skills. These are very important when we go to different colleges. Students coming from, we have 145 engineering colleges with us, which is all across the state. So when we are bringing students to these kind of platforms, for the university to own that and say that, see, you have these, we have to have these clear, the offerings have to be very clear, and only then we will be able to onboard the students for this sort of skilling. So that's very important for us. Now, coming to the research and applied research, which Anup was very critically bringing out. See, if I make any specific remarks on that, those two theses, because they were guided by me, I will have to argue and establish that those are also having applications, provided you have the right kind of problem and bring it. But that is not that's not important at this point. But we have a Center for Engineering Research and Development at KTU, and I am looking for inputs from the industry. If we can have problems from the industry which can be posted for students who are coming for PhD to take up and work on, that is something which we are looking for. And if we can have some sort of mechanism which is able to pool such problems from not only from industry and also from the government, and if we are able to offer fellowship for students, it is possible that we get good research outcome from this, which can be applied to the specific problems. And it is not that we are, but it should be funded. It should be funded properly, and the people who are bringing in the problems, if it is one organization or an organization with a specific problem, see, we are open to have those experts also in the selection committee to see that whoever is being given these fellowships, they are able to work on that problem and produce results out of it. So that kind of system is available in the university, and we are open for that. The industry sponsored research, where the competency of the faculty members and the students who are able to take up such problems and work on are properly analyzed. And if such problems can be given, it is possible to have this kind of research output coming from the engineering colleges. And on the specific areas of competency that we are building now, it is on the schools that the university will be building, where we will be able to get new faculty members with specific areas to work on, and that is different. Now I'm talking about the affiliated colleges, where we have around 600 odd faculty members enrolled for as research guides, and also around 650 scholars are working in the university across 35 to 40 research centers in the engineering colleges throughout the state. So it becomes theoretical because they don't see such an opening. And of course, it has to be driven from the university, and the university is open to have such problems. Government also, it is also possible to have the support from government, support in the sense that we have a large number of opportunities. As IT secretary was indicating in the beginning, e-governance is one of the areas which is there, but there should be some way of getting our capabilities, the capabilities of students and faculty members in the specific areas which are curated by some organization like IT Mission or some entity like that. And then if teams of people are engaged in such projects on a continuous basis, there is going to be a change. But it is not very easy because we have systems that are from systems in various departments that are carried out by various entities. I don't know how far it will be possible, but there should be some ways where such big projects are also connected to the campuses, where we have some mechanism by which the students and faculty members are also part of this. So this is not something that is that can be easily done, but it needs a lot of effort in bringing such problems and projects, and then slowly getting people into this. Only if we have these kind of methodologies established can this work. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to establish this connection. And I don't know if it can come in the planning process or from the departments. We have a large number of departments handling various projects. Only in some of the cases we use the expertise of students, and that's very minimal. Maybe at the last mile, for some kind of outreach activities and all that. That should not be the case. There should be a problem bank where if IT department can come up with a problem bank like that, it is very much possible to make these connections. So we are looking forward to such inputs, and the university is very much open for these, provided we have a mechanism to bridge this gap as we spoke. So let us have some concrete way of doing that in the beginning. How can we bring in? It is possible for me to bring in a few faculty members who are interested in a particular area, a special interest group or something like that, and they can look at these problems and they can give it to students. So we are there, and we are open for all these. But where do we sit and exchange ideas, where we need to intervene and work? That is very important, and that is where we need to do some work. So otherwise, the things that are coming from the universities will be very, very theoretical, because from the campuses, most of the cases, even in academics or in research, the real problems that are faced are not available with them. They are not exposed to such problems. So how can we address this? That is something that we need to figure out. If we are thinking of a digital platform, can we have such a repository which brings in, say, sector-wise problems in the health sector? These are all the areas or the projects that we are going to look at, and how can we have this project divided into small units and given as funded projects to universities and colleges on a competitive basis. I'm not saying that it can be given as such, but there should be some kind of strategy, some kind of control where it can be done. So that level is missing for us, and we always sit down and have these sort of deliberations to connect industry, academia, and research. But how do we have this in the first place? Then it is very much possible. We can also think of bringing in new centers in the universities which can do that. We can have some level of leadership that can bring in such elements also, and get it executed through such centers. there are different ways of looking at, but it's very critical, and it has to be properly planned, be it skilling or be it skilling or be it applied research. In both these, we can work together and achieve something, because all of us are working for the same cause, be it the government, be it the planning board. We are all working for the same cause, improving the society, and or also for improving the businesses from Kerala, and for finding jobs. So the cause is common, but the strategies to bring in those, that is very critical.
Okay, thank you, madam. In fact, it is so refreshing to hear that a vice chancellor who is having the affiliation of 100 plus colleges is coming forth and talking about the flexibility that the university can bring in, because many a times that's something which, because I also come from industry, so that's something that we used to always find it so difficult to convince the university that the industry keeps going so fast and typical university systems may not fit in. So you have introduced certain interesting programs like the minor programs, and providing extra credits for industry resource based training programs are something that I think is certainly going to make a lot of positive dent into the university system. You have also proposed the need for having industry collaboration with very specific job roles out there, based on which the university can also very quickly and in an agile way train students on those job roles and get them onboarded. In fact, considering the time factor, I understand that all the experts have spoken so much of value to the whole thing. I didn't find it appropriate to stop with the time clock there. I know I've broken all the time discipline that was put in front of me. Apologies to the planning board team who wanted this to be very disciplined and structured. But I think a lot of things have come together. The second round of questioning and summary of some of these things have already come in. So I think we saved some time here and there, but I just want to quickly go around one round, and then probably, if time permits, we'll get back to the summary part of it later again. I'm also getting a few questions on the chat box, so I will come to that point. I just wanted to circle back to Dr. Kesh. In fact, before the session itself, we have put in a few pointers, and it was glad to know that many of the speakers have touched already on the pointers that has been put on. That was supposedly the moderator question, so I can avoid some of the moderator questions straight away. But going back from what Dr. Rajeshri has stated, you also come from the academia background, so it is a out of syllabus question. I didn't post that in the group, so I just hope that you will be able to answer that. So going back to the critical problem that Dr. Rajeshri has mentioned about the industry academia collaboration and finding the right mix out there, and how education systems can churn out and meet the industry demands. As an international academician, how does it work in the university that you work with, and how does this collaboration happens, and do we still have same problems that we face in India and Kerala, that we keep talking about the industry academia gap?
Thank you. It was a great presentation from everybody and very thoughtful. I would like to address Dr. Rajeshri's comments, and I understand the challenges that you are facing. I will highlight one thing, and that is the investment from federal government in US in research is very, very significant. This is something that if you look, China tried to copy what US is doing in terms of federal investment. And so for us, I would say about 70% to 80% of all our research projects are funded by National Science Foundation for Engineering, National Institute of Health in Medicine. And National Institute of Health is in fact almost 6 to 7 times as big as National Science Foundation in terms of money. Even the mRNA technology that has come out recently for vaccination was funded by NIH for the last 8 years. So fundamental research that the pharmaceutical industry and every industry capitalizes today came from federal funding. Internet, the way as we know it, was funded in the 80s by National Science Foundation. Satellite systems around the world was funded at National Science Foundation. So the impact of the government funding at a superficial level does not look very promising because a lot of research does not go anywhere. But that 1 or 2% of the research, which actually converts into something, is actually what is driving the US economy today. And I think that is lacking in India. I know that the last few years there has been some effort in investment from the government, but I think the infrastructure to utilize that money and convert that into meaningful or translatable research is something that requires significant thinking and planning. And so, Dr. Rajeshri, you mentioned that you're willing to bring some faculty members from across the different universities, different colleges to work. It's a great starting point. But I think there are models that you can look at, and I from my perspective from University of Illinois, I'd be very, very happy to engage with you and others to discuss in a long term how can you do this. I mean, this is not something you mentioned something about some colleges are only 5 years old, right? University of Illinois is 150 years old, so there's a history. But creating a new university and converting that into a research workhorse is not something you can put on a switch and it'll become a research university. It requires multiple levels. For example, the laboratory facilities we have. For example, I'll give you one. MNTL is the Micro Nanotechnology Lab, which actually created some of the 5-minute testing for COVID in a matter of 90 days. But it did not happen in 90 days. The lab was created about 10 years back with over $50 million investment, right? So the infrastructure is built over a period of time. So when we have a postdoc or a student coming from, I don't know where, maybe from China or from India, they are walking into a facility that has been built with a lot of investment from government and other things. So that's one thing I would say is that when you think of research, it's not something that you will be able to do simply because an industry wants you to do. I'll give you an example. If tomorrow Tesla comes to a university and say, we want to give you $5 million to do some work in battery, and everyone can say yes, but do you have the labs to do the chemical work in battery? You'll find out that you'll need, for getting the 5 million, you'll have to invest 50 million before that will get converted into 5 million. And that's the advantage that we see in US, that it has been thought of and they have invested so others can come and work. But I'm not saying this to say that Kerala cannot do it. So what I'm saying is that it has to be two-pronged approach. On one prong is that you look at industry and see what is that need. On the other side is to look at where the industry is moving in 5 or 10 years and invest in a few areas. Don't invest in 10 areas, invest in 2 or 3 areas, and then focus on building it. And I think that in today's conversation, since we're talking about software, this is one area where the infrastructure investment is much lower than, say, for example, in chemical industry or pharmaceutical industry, where investment required very early on is very, very large, right? Software does not require that much investment. So this is a very good area to go into, right? There is a lot of manpower investment required to do that, right? So if you want to think of that, let's think of what is, okay, cloud computing. How do you create a cloud computing lab? How do you create a 5G lab? This is something that I'm working on here, is creating a 5G cyber physical system lab for testing new healthcare technologies. How can this lab create scenarios for testing how 5G will be rolled out across the country, like medical robotics, diagnostics? It's a big investment that we're asking government, 50 million, but companies like AT&T, Ericsson are have already signed up with us because they don't want to invest $50 million. They want government to invest, but they invest, they will convert that into $1 billion industry because they're going to take this and give it as a solution to states and public health systems and private hospitals and they'll make money. And this is how the industry has done always. Company like J&J, they make $1 billion because government invested money. So we have to think of this as a government industry partnership. So that's one thought I have. And maybe I'll just take another minute. So I will take a little bit of, disagree a little bit to say that in PhD research, you will look only as a problem solving technique for industry. My experience is that is more a master's level thesis where you take a real problem and try to solve for the industry. In the PhD, you are actually setting a stage for the next innovation or invention that industry does not know exists today, but they know that they can capitalize once somebody proves that this can happen. So at the PhD level, it has to be a deeper thinking where you're coming up with ideas and showing that this can happen. So which means that it has to be computationally strong, it has to be theoretically strong, and it has to have solutions. Like for example, can the computation increase 10 times faster if I do this methodology, right? Why quantum physics is being invested so much? It is so elementary, but if quantum theory is well, they say that you can break any password in the world in 1 second using quantum theory. But is it practical? It is not at all practical today, right? It is still very, very early on. But the ideas are coming from people who do PhD. So I would not jump and convert PhD into a problem-solving technique, because if you do that, then these people come up with these PhD degrees, they will not find value in the market to go and do their own labs and their own research centers and things like that, right? However, investing in PhD research in a significant area or a few that has future is where we should look at, whether it's AI, whether it's quantum technology and things like that. I know that this format and talking in 5 minutes cannot solve all the problems in the world, but I would say that also Dr. Anoop's comment about some of the PhD dissertations looked up, I mean, that's really good that you spend some time looking at what PhD dissertations are coming out. I mean, this is a great thing that the university at the level can do and analyze itself and see what is actually happening. I mean, that is a great effort. I really enjoyed seeing that someone actually looked at the dissertation titles. But it's a great thing that what all of you are proposing is that this may be the time. I mean, I'll tell you, there are small countries like Estonia and others who do fantastic work. How did Estonia started doing work in operations research? It's simply because of the fact that they've been thinking broadly in terms of where industry will come, and so industry will go to where there are knowledge. And I will tell you, if the good research comes out of Kerala, people will find Kerala and come there to invest big time. Like, people are not worried anymore about countries. They go around the world and invest, and Kerala can get a lot of investment because Kerala is a very attractive place to come, right? Anyone who comes to Kerala will always come back to Kerala, as someone said, And I think Dr. Santosh and Dr. Gopinath knows, our president came to Kerala last 2018 to sign some agreement. President Kelleen, he's a Britisher, but he has been working in the US for 30 years. And he has been asking me ever since, when are we going back to Kerala? So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kesh. I think there is an immediate action where perhaps we could also connect you to the Kerala Technological University and Dr. Rajeshri and exchange ideas on how we can collaborate on that front. Moving on, I know there is a time constraint on here. I may requesting Kerala Planning Board to give me 5 extra minutes so that I can conclude it quite nicely. Moving on very quickly, Mr. Nandakumar, this is a question that came in from Professor Ashraf. I'm combining that with my question. You have seen it all in Kerala. So you grew the organization into what it is right now. So with that experience and with what is happening around the world, what are your 1 or 2 specific suggestions for Kerala?
Thanks, Santosh.
Be it on a domain and a technology, maybe.
That's right. So, see, let me, I told you that I didn't go into the solution side at all. I just stated the opportunity alone in my earlier conversation. What helped us to be leader, and we are globally leader in one space which we have taken on, and on a global level. Our experience within Indian Telecom way back in 90 helped us in one segment, and which from where we completely innovated that into a banking and financial services sector. So the one difficult thing to get is the domain knowledge. See, when you go as a product organization to a large organization like Bank of America or JP Morgan or HSBC, you have to be telling to them things which they don't know, right? So what is the possibility? That's what I'm saying. What do you want your customer want to be? So there are a lot of approaches which we are taking. I'm not going to get into the details and all that. But the biggest thing is that can we see what helped us? I can tell you, the extreme environment in India. What when we started, it was in 90s. We had World War II technology onwards, all the way digital technology in telecom switching, and we had very limited resources to compute. And every bit of code which you wrote had to be so efficient. So with that kind of, like, if you drive in Indian roads, you can go and drive anywhere in the world, right? That kind of experience helped us. What I'm coming to is, can we pick up industries and applications which are required in our own backyard? I can look at a lot of, like, we are good in healthcare, we are good at what you call hospitality. Now with, for example, logistics, which is coming in, pick up one area where we can help that as one of the world class. Is that possible? Utilizing that opportunity. Another important aspect is that with work from home opportunity, even the software engineering practices should be completely, Srikanth alluded to that, completely digital engineering processes. Can we make that as your curriculum in your education? There's no need for people learning the old SDLC processes. Can we make every academy, that you are at the bleeding edge of technology teaching in your universities? Another important thing is that is something not in our blood. It's called, how can we be collaborative in our attitude? That is very important when you do work from home. Right? People, one of the biggest problem, I say this is the Indian problem. We are intuitively so strong, but collectively not so. In a work from home, the mindset change has to be collaborative mindset. How do you bring in that culture in our universities? How can you teach people to be collaborative? Because in certain things, you have to agree to disagree. These are the kind of problems which this kind of mindset can you bring in? Now, I just want to allude, just before I conclude, one point. For example, if a platform is available, it's a brilliant point Dr. Rajashree mentioned about, if the industry is willing to, industry can give, at least we can give problem statements which need very high-end research. We work with some of the largest banks in the world, and on a global level, we have deployment for our deployment in about, in one installation itself, about 70 odd countries. And there's different diversity of data which we do. We deal with financial transaction, and which is insight which we can take is phenomenal possibility for our client. We need specific research areas that need to happen. So that problem statement is possible. As Dr. Kesh talked about, you can definitely go to, I personally am a physicist. I love to do research in quantum physics if that's possible. If somebody can create a lab, government investment. I'm fascinated by that, because that can be done, including the quantum networks. We should be looking at something in those areas. If you really look at, can you just jump one ladder and go to the next level of thinking process? Don't go sequential. There's no point, because the technology has already advanced. There's no point in we also crawling through that. It's only a mindset change that's required. So I can definitely go into each of this topic in a separate conversation, but it needs deeper conversation. I know the practical problem. We are stuck. See, we are globally reached at a certain point. We have a lot of customers, but we could have been 100 times, 1,000 times better than this if we had the kind of talent what we need. Today is our growth is direct function of talent availability. We insisted to be Kerala based, but now we are global. We are shifting our buoyancy to a certain extent, to be honest about it, simply because of the talent problem. Because we had to be at least 5 to 6 years ahead of the industry, which we are serving. So to put it in a nutshell, definitely if a university is willing to take problem statement, we are more than happy to collaborate and making that open. There are problem statements that's possible. And another thing which I said, can we have talent coming in who can be ready to be problem solvers? I don't want people with knowledge. Knowledge is democratized today. Anybody can learn. Learnability of the student, how best they can learn, is the only skill which we need. That can be right from a school student all the way up to the PhD students. I mean, that continuous learning and fast learning capability is the only thing which we need to inculcate. Can we bring in that kind of culture? Is that a possibility? I mean, these are all things which I'm just stating the things which we are struggling with. You know, we hire people with for example, recently this year, what we did is we used to go hire from the university, colleges. This year we stopped that. We went for 100% hackathon based. Unfortunately, when we looked at that, there's only 5% which I could hire from Kerala. It was almost 90%. It is now national. Almost 95% came from because of the codeathon. I mean, people qualifying only they qualify that, then they really come for our interviews. So there are certain things which fundamentally we have got a lot of quantity, but a significant improvement in quality from the university need to happen. I really do not know where the problem, because I have not spent time on it. I only talking from the consumer. I mean, the person who is consuming the talent point of view. So I can go into details later. I think I'll leave it there right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Venki. I appreciate that. I really have a stopgap warning from my organizers. So a couple of points. One to Mr. Anup. Very quickly, on the research, applied research side, if it's more of a rapid fire question to you. On the applied research side, will you and the connected ecosystem that you have would be interested in setting up something for the university, the digital university, as well as the Kerala Technological University to work with? If given an opportunity, would there be enough appetite in the industrial side to provide applied research opportunities for these universities? You're on mute, Anup. No, you're still on mute.
Yeah, I just got the permission to unmute myself. Yeah. So two things I wanted to clarify. I will also give a clarification to Dr. Rajashree, but I'll answer your question first. Yes, as we speak, I think GTech Academy and Technology Focus Group is working with KTU in creating a platform wherein industry will be able to post their problems and students will be able to go and pick it up and create their own GitHub repositories in solving some of those problems and create their own open source code repositories, which they can highlight to employers while doing the interviews, which will kind of not exactly a hackathon, but I think like NK said, rather than having these fluffy resumes, which contains a lot of things, that does not mean anything. You just say that, okay, here is a GitHub repository and here is the industry that I've worked with. And I know that a couple of such projects has already initiated. The platform is not in full swing, but I think it has the potential to emerge very well. But that is only for the BTech students who are trying to do a project as part of their curriculum, not really the research part. Now, as a clarification to Dr. Rajashree, I didn't mean to, pick out the dissertations that you guided. I just went, as being a computer science engineer, I just went and, picked up what was done in computer science in the last, and there were only 3 PhDs, 2 of which you guided. And eventually I saw that one of them was from Manju S. Nair, who I know very well. If I put my computer science hat, I can very well see applications for it. The point that I was trying to make is that if I put my citizen hat or an applied scientist hat, then I will not be able to find an application, which is okay. Like much like Dr. Kesh mentioned, and that's why I think it's called doctor in philosophy. It's not really science or it's not really arts. It's a doctor of philosophy. So basically, you get your mind into a deeper thinking process wherein you set stage for something that could create a ripple 10 years down the line. And I completely agree with that. But then translational research will become a tougher problem unless somebody will be willing to put a lot of money, which will be government in this case, to fund those processes for such a long time, because industry will definitely be looking for a gain unless it's put as a CSR fund. That's another way of looking at it. We could probably collate all the CSR funds that the companies are having and put it into a research facility, or create that one lab, maybe something like a quantum computing lab if we want to set up something like that. But I think I answered your question, Santosh. I also wanted to give a clarification to Dr. Rajeshri.
Yeah, sure, Anu. Thank you. It's not a question, a suggestion that came in the chat box, Dr. Rajeshri. I think there is a suggestion that can the university also create a flexibility of adjunct faculty coming from industry to teach courses inside the university, and vice versa, taking a faculty into the industry on sabbatical and providing them an opportunity. That was I found that to be an interesting suggestion, maybe worth to ponder around and see whether there is a flexibility that can be brought in. So I really thank you all for your wonderful patience and a lot of very, very interesting insights. So I'm just seeing the message from Professor V.K. Ramachandran, the Vice Chairman for the Planning Board, was saying that I found the session riveting, one of the best academic industry policymaker discussions I have attended. I hope all the participants are willing to follow up on the implications of this discussion. I think that said it all. It all goes to the wonderful panel who presented their thoughts and ideas very candidly. In fact, that is exactly what we wanted. We didn't want to only hear the good news around us. We wanted to see what are the areas of improvement, what are the opportunities that we have. I have got a lot of homework to do. In fact, we also have scribes who are going to take notes of these actions. We will have a follow through on some of these things, and I sincerely request your support and cooperation for us to follow it through for implementing some of these activities in the near future. So with that, a few words, I once again thanking all the participants for their contribution, and also thanking the Kerala State Planning Board for giving me the opportunity to moderate this session. I hope I have done justice. So unfortunately, I skipped a few minutes away. So sorry for that. And I wanted to pass it back to Shalini to take it forward with the rest of the session. Thanking you. Shalini, over to you. You're on mute.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, experts. That was very interesting session packed with inputs shared from industry and academia. It was interesting to listen to the discussions, and I would like to add a point where Mr. Anupambika said and what Rajeshri ma'am has discussed. Kerala Startup Mission has initiated, in fact, I should say baby steps where translational research products are supported. It is called a RINC, Research Innovation Network Kerala, where we have onboarded 9 institutions. In fact, the objectives in mind is to facilitate the communication between research community and industry, promote the translational researchers, increase the synergy between startups and research fraternity, and connect investors with startups and the researchers. Yeah, so I just wanted to add that point as well. So now let me welcome Shri Joyce NR, Chief of Industry and Infrastructure Division, Kerala State Planning Board, to propose the vote of thanks. Sir, please.
Respected speakers, delegates, officials, participants, and dear friends. I feel honored to propose vote of thanks for this thematic session on IT software on behalf of State Planning Board. And as part of the international conference, Kerala looks ahead. This IT sector thematic session has brought on new ideas and suggestions, a thing which can be taken forward to the main conference. On behalf of this State Planning Board, let me thank our esteemed speakers, Professor T. Keshavdas, Sri Shrikant Rimanithia, Sri Nandakumar K. Nair, Sri Anup Ambigya, Professor Rajesh, famous our moderator, Sri Santosh Kurup, CEO of ICT Academy, and Dr. Saji Gobinath for the presentation of the thematic concept note, and our IT Secretary, Sri Muhammad Wai Safarullah, AS. Also, our member, Professor T. Jayaraman, for taking the lead role in the session. And I would also like to thank all the delegates who have blessed us with their presence and valuable comments. Sincere thanks is also due to participants who have joined the session on YouTube and Facebook accounts. And I strongly believe this session will help us in shaping future strategy of IT sector for the state. And I would also like to thank the organizing team at the State Planning Board, my colleagues in organizing the conference. And I would also like to thank our IT service providers, the event management team, and the anchor, Mrs. Shalini, for their valuable support. And thank you all once again for enriching the session with your presence and inputs. And we look forward to meet all of you on coming 27th as well as on 2nd February for our sessions on hardware and the main conference respectively. And thank you again, once again all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That
All.
brings us the end of the session. Thank you all for joining the thematic session on software organized by Kerala State Planning Board as a part of International Conference and Consultation. Kerala looks ahead. We look forward to seeing you on Jan 27th for the thematic session on hardware. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.